A sentimental replica of a planet long since vanished. No style at all.
I expect better manners from my guests, Odd.
Somebody's gonna get whooped, right?
Mm-hmm.
We must combine our strength. Take him!
What's going on, man? Okay, everybody, just stop. Just pause for a second. What's going on? Okay, that's not Superman. Okay, Superman does not fling his shield. What is that? Second of all, what are those laser beams, man? Where did that come from? Third of all, why does everybody start disappearing everywhere and multiplying like crazy? What is going on? This is not Superman. You should be ashamed of yourself. Think before you do something. Here's the review. What's up, and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today I'm joined once again by Mike over at the Z Review to discuss Superman 2. We're actually going to be looking at both versions of this movie, so the theatrical version that came out in 1980 and the Richard Donner cut, which was released later in 2006. So first off, huge thanks to Mike for joining me again. We'll be hearing from him in just a hot second. But first, I want to sort of explain what the difference is between these two films, for those of you that didn't actually know the Donner cut existed. Basically, when they were making Superman Returns in 2006, they found a bunch of archive footage of Superman 2 that was never used, shot by Richard Donner before he was fired from the project. He had filmed something like 75% of the film, but was replaced by Richard Lester, who rewrote, refilmed, and changed the film overall. It was essentially the same thing that happened with Zack Snyder and the Justice League. So just like the Snyder cut that we're going to be getting pretty soon, we had the Donner cut first, which serves as kind of an alternate take of the film and offers a vastly different but similar plot. I know a lot of people that prefer the Donner cut, but I've always kind of wondered if that has more to do with the fact that it's a better movie, or if people are just kind of more loyal to the original vision and would claim it's better without ever having seen it, which is what I feel like we keep seeing from the Snyder cut. Loyalists are nice and everything, but I'm more of a realist. I want a good movie no matter what, and that's it. If they're both good, great. But if one sucks, I'm gonna be talking about that. So let's cover the base on what both of these films are all about. Regardless on the version that you watch, Superman 2 will always cover two things: Lois discovering the truth about Clark Kent's secret identity as Superman, and the arrival of the Kryptonian villains General Zod, Ursa, and Non as they wreak havoc on a vulnerable planet as Superman is gallivanting off with Lois elsewhere. I think both versions of this film have a lot of good associated with them, as well as bad, actually. One of the first things that struck me as maybe questionable in Superman 2 is the pacing. I just thought that they had two storylines that didn't really mesh very well, and that doesn't even matter which version you're talking about. The Zod stuff is always great, no matter what version you watch. But in the theatrical version, I feel like they're basically ignored until the third act before Superman's like, oh my god, I should probably do something about that. The Donner cut had a better understanding of these villains, and so they had a much stronger presence in the film. They were deadlier, scarier, and clearly in the forefront of everybody's minds, and it didn't wait until the third act for Superman to deal with them. That's good. But on the other hand, the Donner cut also had absolutely no idea how to handle the Lois discovering Clark's secret thing. No idea. It's a complete mess, and the editing ends up being pretty choppy. The theatrical version handled that better. The Donner cut is also known for its use of Marlon Brando footage, which is pretty cool, I'll admit. It feels a lot better than the random stuff with Superman's mom in the theatrical cut. But at the same time, I sometimes felt that the Marlon Brando stuff was somewhat overused. Now, before I continue with my thoughts, I want to hear from Mike from the Z Review. Take it away, man.
thanks again to Dave for having me back to feature in the Superman review series, and today we're actually reviewing Superman 2, the theatrical and Richard Donner version. So I'm not sure if at this point Dave's maybe spoke about them both, but yeah, I guess it was a big subject to controversy after Richard Donner's firing back at the end of Superman 1. So they went with Richard Lester, I believe that was the name. So they went with that cut instead, and we got like a theatrical cut, and we got the Richard Donner cut. So when Dave approached me with doing this sequel in terms of talking about it, he said, right, should we do kind of maybe two separate? Do we do them both like intertwined? I was like, well, I don't mind. I can watch both of them. And I'm glad I did, to be honest. So there is some major differences between the both, and it's very tough to say which one I like the better. So firstly, what I would like to say is what I liked about this movie is the fact that Christopher Reeve, once again, is awesome as Superman. I noticed that when he's Clark Kent, it says over to this side, but when he's Superman, it says over to that side. And it's only a minor, very detail. But as Dave touched on at the end of the Superman review, Christopher Reeve is definitely one of the best portrayals, the differences between Clark Kent and Superman, because you can actually be like, right, is he actually Superman? And I like that the part of Lois Lane questions this throughout this movie, and she tends to latch onto this pretty quickly, more so in the Donner cut than the theatrical. But I really like that, and I like that part of the Donner cut better than the theatrical, that I got straight into it, and she said, right, I'm going to prove that you're Superman, and I'm going to jump out this window, so you're going to have to save me, which takes a lot of smarts of Christopher Reeve's Superman to actually save her without revealing his identity, whereas in the theatrical version, she just jumps in the water and says, right, I'm going to prove that you're Superman, you're going to save me. No, he doesn't really want it. If he's a great swimmer, he can just go in the water and save her that way, you know? That part was a bit dumb. Now, the villains in this movie, essentially, we've got obviously Gene Hackman back as Lex Luthor, but we've also got Terrence Stamp as General Zod, and I really felt like Terrence Stamp nailed it in this movie. I think like he knocked it out of the park, and I really liked his portrayal of the villain in this. I felt that it was really, really good. I felt like he got enough screen time, and obviously there's the three of them that were stuck in the prismatic zone, however, and the other two I didn't mind as such, but definitely General Zod is the main one, of course, and so he should be. Let's get into a couple of the differences that I like between them both. The opening scene where kind of it's set in the Daily Planet in the office compared to actually the Eiffel Tower scene in the theatrical, I would say I'd have to go with the Donner version on that one. I really liked that, and it just got straight to the point, and I felt like it was a bit more of a consistent sort of movie, whereas the theatrical, it does have that in certain points, but I felt like there was some parts of that didn't need to be put into there, and we're going to get into that. So what I also liked about Superman 2 is the fact that Christopher Reeves once again brings an awesome portrayal, and I felt like that resonated throughout this entire movie, into the point where he gets to the point where he loves Lois Lane. He has a chance with this woman, and he says, right, well, I'm going to give up my powers. I don't want to do this anymore. I know what I want in life. I found what I want in life. So he decides to give up his powers as Superman. That is far better done in the theatrical version, and feels like there's more of an effect or change to it. Special effects as such that they use for that on the green screen as such. The theatrical, it felt like there was more emphasis to that moment, and I like that part the better of the two. In terms of the part where General Zod then comes to the city and he's invading like this small town, again it got straight to the point in the Donner cut that he went straight to the town. The army base were trying to attack him. They pretty much beat up the army base and got to it. Whereas in the theatrical, it adds little bits and bobs to that side of the story, which I felt in a sense didn't need to be there. So yeah, as we go into these comparisons, it's very tough to talk about because they're two completely different sides of it. Although there is some similarities between the two, and there's certainly some consistencies there with both sides of the story. One part I did not like at all in the theatrical version, which Dave kind of done in a video at the beginning of this, is the part where Superman are taken out, the three from the prismatic zone. And what the hell is that about when he chucks an S from his chest? It's kind of like a cape. He chucks at him and like, where the hell did that come from? It was stupid. absolutely stupid. I did not like that at all, and I'm so glad the Donner version cut that out completely, because that sucked, and I don't think anyone needs to say that. Don't get me wrong, if you want a good laugh, definitely check out the theatrical version for that part. It's definitely worth doing so. Overall, a lot of differences between the both versions. I liked some of the theatrical, I liked some of the Donner version. I wish someone would do a third release of this movie, take clips of both those parts, where some of it's more consistency, some parts not needed in either version, put it all together, and I think would have an ultimate kind of settlement to which version is better. For now, I'm kind of leaning more towards the Donner side, because I felt like it got to the point of Lois Lane fighting out Superman pretty quickly. I felt like they did it quite well as well in terms of that cut, and I liked that that was kind of like the main star of this movie, because it certainly picks up from where Superman left off, and also shows that Lois Lane isn't dumb. She realizes, right, look, this is actually Superman, because it was just straight to the point. Whereas I felt when I watched the Superman 2 version and I saw the differences, I felt like they definitely could have cut some out, and they did that. So overall, Dave, I would say that the Richard Donner version was better than the 2. In terms of if this film was better than Superman 1, part of it, yeah, I felt like Gene Hackman's character Lex Luthor was a bit more wasted in this, and they kind of got rid of, Ned Beatty, the sidekick in this film. You said at the beginning that was it, which I felt was kind of a good choice to replace her with the woman I forgot the character's name. I didn't really feel like they needed to do that. I felt like, Lex Luthor himself, yeah, this woman helped him get out of the prison. I completely get that part. But after that, I felt like she wasn't really needed, and she was kind of ditched towards the end anyway. So I just felt like overall Lex Luthor was a bit more wasted. I liked his portrayal a bit more in Superman 1, but in terms of like the excitement and in terms of which film entertained me more, definitely Superman 2. So yeah, Dave, firstly, thank you so much for having me on the channel. I look forward to seeing Superman 3 if we're going to be teaming up and reviewing that one. I enjoyed both of them, each for different reasons. But yeah, back to you, Dave. Thank you so much for having me once again.
Mike, thanks so much for joining me, and it was really interesting hearing your thoughts as a first-time watcher of this film, getting to watch both versions of it at the same time. Make sure everybody watching this, go to his channel. I've left a link to that in my description box below. Show him some love, subscribe to him, because he's got a lot of great material, and I definitely hope to review the next few Superman movies with you, man. I just love hearing those first-time experiences with these classics. We definitely agree on the finer details between these two movies and which differences between the two films are better than the other, especially the end battle in the Fortress of Solitude for the theatrical release, and how it makes absolutely no sense. Superman flinging his shield at the bad guys, acting like a net, then Superman and the other Kryptonians multiply or something, they shoot lasers out of their hands, they disappear. I have no idea what's going on at that end battle. None of that is Superman powers, and it came out of absolutely nowhere. Thankfully, the Donner cut didn't do any of that, like you said, but at the same time, the Donner cut actually included a dress rehearsal in the film, because they didn't have the final version of it. A dress rehearsal, and two different versions of the dress rehearsal at that. Clark switches back and forth in this scene between a different haircut, hairstyle, and a pair of glasses constantly, and none of it feels organic or like it fits in as a cinematic thing. I don't want to see people practicing lines, which is exactly what that was. Honestly, I agree with you 100% that there's gotta be a really, really good version of this movie out there that combines the best of the best from both versions. But if it exists, I've never seen it. Let's go ahead and look at my final ratings for both of these films. I think you'll be interested in my findings. I think as an overall idea, the theatrical version of Superman 2 is better, just from a cinematic perspective. That's where you and I differ, Mike, but it definitely wasn't an easy decision. The editing, when it came down to the theatrical film, wasn't all over the place, and as a general rule, it felt the most like a movie. But when I'm looking at my unbiased technical scores between the two films, there's actually one thing that I noticed. The Donner cut comes out on top, just by 2%. And that mostly has to do with the fact that the Donner cut made more sense when it came down to the structure of the narrative, and giving these bad guys the focus that they definitely needed. If the theatrical version of the film had the focus this movie had for the villains, it could have been untouchable. My unbiased score for the theatrical version is 68%, but it's 70% for the Donner cut. But I grew up with this character, so bias is a huge thing for me when it comes down to Superman. So what's my bias score for Superman 2? it's pretty clear. I had a much better time watching the theatrical film than the Donner cut, which is kind of what you were talking about with entertainment in general, but it goes beyond that for me, since I believe the original feels more like a complete movie than the Donner cut, and that's really, really important to me. My bias score for the original version is 88%, but it's 70 for the Donner cut. You can watch the Donner cut and understand the general gist of what Donner was going for. You can appreciate the direction, but because it mostly feels like an incomplete project, I honestly feel like it lost a big chunk of the spirit the original had. Clark sometimes feels wrong, like he's rehearsing lines, not actually performing them. There's nods to the theatrical version, so if you haven't seen that, you might be left confused. Everything regarding Lois discovering Clark's secret in the Donner cut is a downright mess, all the way down to how they fix it at the end. And I hate the ending of the Donner cut. I hate it so much. Don't get me wrong, I like the Donner cut and how different it is from the original, but it's not a full movie. Donner was never able to complete his vision, so the end result feels as such. Averaging out the two scores for everything, the theatrical version of Superman 2 is scored 78%. The Donner cut is rated 70. If we were to make an ultimate score between the two movies, then I would score it 74%, but I'm not very inclined to do that just yet. Again, Mike, thank you for joining me. I hope we can review Superman 3 soon. But until then, guys, have you seen Superman 2? Have you seen the theatrical? Have you seen the Donner cut? If you have, let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. I'm really interested in seeing what you think is the better of the two. And until then, guys, make sure that you hit the like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need a movie pick. Thanks for joining up with us. We think you're